know the wonderful old hymn, Blessed Assurance. This is my story, this is my song. Well, so I sort of played off of that a little bit and called this session, This Is My Story. Not my story, but the story of three of your colleagues. I wish we had time to replicate this, and almost do nothing but this for the whole conference. But these three folks are going to just tell you a little bit about their story. And without further ado, I want you to welcome Erin Clarke from First Baptist Church, Griffin, Georgia.
It's a little intimidating to tell you my story. It's not that exciting. I wanted to borrow someone else's, but I thought somebody might catch on to me if I started in West Philadelphia, born and raised. A playground is where I spent most of my days, but anyway. I grew up the daughter of a youth minister and a church pianist mom. So we weren't just there when the doors were open. We were the ones opening the doors. And from what I understand from our speed dating exercise, a lot of you can resonate with that. All along, I loved music and I loved Jesus, but I would never consider combining the two for a vocation. As a staff kid, I saw enough of the ugly side of church politics to never want to be a part of that. There was no way that I was going to subject myself to being on a church staff with all the drama and the pettiness. So instead, I moved to a small town and became a middle school chorus teacher because there's no politics, pettiness, or drama in that. After teaching for 5 years, I married Thomaston's most eligible bachelor, so it was the baseball coach and the chorus teacher, and it was pretty adorable. And then I went back to my alma mater, which was Mercer University, the best school in the land, and that's right, and got my graduate conducting degree, but still, no desire whatsoever to be a music minister. I went right back into the classroom that I had left, and I taught 1 year before quitting to stay at home with our 3 baby boys. During my time at home, I agreed to serve as an interim music minister at the church we were attending, basically just to stop the hemorrhaging there. And not once, but a second time 3 years later. Finally, as my second interim stint ended, I thought, okay, I kind of like this, and I can do this. So I started my first full-time position as a minister of music at First Baptist Griffin in April of 2019. So fast forward through a global pandemic, major shifts in our church leadership, and a bonus surprise baby girl, and I think I can still do this, maybe. My husband, Chip, not the one that you're going to hear from next. Although we did speed date, but please don't let anyone... He does not play baseball, right, yes. So my husband, Chip, is an assistant principal in our local elementary school, and I often say that he is the one in the trenches doing the real ministry. My boys, Quinn, Bauer, and Briggs, are in 4th grade, 2nd grade, and kindergarten, and our baby girl, Davy Lee, is 14 months old on Sunday. We live in one small town. We play rec sports in an even smaller town, and then we go to church where I work in a bigger town. So needless to say, we are stretched a little thin in time, energy, and distance. If there's such a thing as a typical Baptist music minister, I am quite literally not that guy. I have, yes, I have a pack and play in my office. I love to dance. I actually really like both contemporary and traditional worship. I play the ukulele. I despise Go Tell It on the Mountain. And I love Bohemian Rhapsody. And I can also be severely sarcastic. If these things don't get me excommunicated from this group, then you are my people. My road to ministry has been winding, a little jagged. colorful, and certainly unconventional. For a perfectionist and a certifiable control freak like me, looking back at all the back roads it took me to get to this point is actually remarkable. I might have preferred a straight line from point A to point B and a plan tied up in a neat little package with crisp corners and a perfectly centered bow, but that's not been the case. Growing up with good old Southern Baptist Fifth Night Sunday Sings gave me a repertoire to use for pastoral care at the bedside of older members in our congregation right now. Attending Mercer twice expanded my thinking so that I could appreciate music as a higher art form and set the bar high. The middle schoolers taught me that I won't even approach that bar some days. And the middle schoolers and the middle school principal in particular taught me to develop some thick skin really fast. Directing children's summer theater taught me to be prepared, overplan, and herding cats is the same whether they are 8 years old or 80. As a stay-at-home mom, I learned to find the sacred in the very mundane. And then the fact that at one point God gave me 3 boys under the age of 4 taught me that he must have faith in me, and I am stronger than I thought. And he has a good sense of humor. Working as an interim in 2 different seasons allowed me to gain confidence and eventually try out some really cool creative elements in worship, because what were they going to do? Fire me? It was a lot of fun, and I know that God really gave me that opportunity as a way to experiment. I think that looking over the patchwork of experiences that I've had really sums up what I like about where I am right now. If the path that took me here is unique, then I will just lean into that and appreciate it. I didn't get here in a conventional way, so I won't be a conventional minister, and that's okay. My journey wasn't typical, so I won't be typical, and that's okay. As a mom of 4 kids, and 5 if you include my husband, I don't look like the other ministers in my area at all. And so my ministry won't look like theirs. I'm complex, and my experiences are very eclectic. Like the wide array of songs in my life's jukebox, so are the skills and experiences that God has given me. Putting them together in ways that are creative is what really energizes me the most right now. God was obviously very creative when he created me and when directing my path. So what better way can I serve God than to reflect that creativity? I may sound ridiculous singing "I Got Friends in Low Places" in my classically trained voice with our Thursday at noon ukulele group. But, hey, it's in my wheelhouse, so to God be the glory, and we'll just laugh along the way. And that is pretty much where I am right now. So you know a little about me. I appreciate you welcoming someone who's a little odd and not quite doesn't fit the stereotype, but as I look around the room, there's such great diversity here, but also similar others as we were talking. So that's me.
Will you welcome Chip Handrich, 2nd Baptist Church, Liberty, Missouri.
If you don't know, Liberty is in the Kansas City area, and yes, we're still in mourning. So I told Kyle a minute ago, man, I wish I'd have gone first. Rather than trying to follow Erin. I kind of had an indirect path myself, because I did not grow up. I grew up in a home. My parents were divorced. We attended an independent fundamental Baptist church. Think Bob Jones. So what am I doing here? This is my story, how I came to deconstruct all of that and reconstruct, and I'm so glad that happened in my life. I loved music from an early age and had a great high school program. I was telling somebody, we as a select group sang Cum Sancto Spiritu from B minor Mass in high school in our select group. And for our first anniversary, my wife bought me the Requiem with I can't remember the conductor. Very, very famous work of the Requiem. So we've loved. In fact, I met my wife in high school choir. We were married as teenagers, and we'll celebrate 50 years in July. So it's been a wonderful journey. We live in a 1912 bungalow about a half mile from the church, a Craftsman bungalow, that has retained most of its character in unpainted woodwork, and that gives a clue as another of my interests, which is antiques. My wife is a dealer who deals in vintage antiques, has 2 booths, one in Kansas City and one in Liberty. I also love clock repair. That's one of my hobbies. Doug asked to share a happy place. So my happy place involves hot weather, a beach, Marcy, a palapa, a cold drink with a little umbrella, and a good book. And that is my happy place. I've been in music ministry for over 40 years, serving in 6 different churches in Cicero, Illinois, Amsterdam, New York, Wichita, Kansas, and that was part-time while I was finishing school. That's another story. Pekin, Illinois, Frederick, Maryland, and now Second Baptist. Second Baptist is unique in my experience because of its high degree of church health. Most churches I served in were not healthy. There were problems. Like in Maryland, there was a person trying to get rid of the pastor, so there were shouting matches. When I left a church in upstate New York, I wasn't sure I'd ever be in ministry again. It was so toxic to our life. That's when we moved to Wichita, Kansas, and actually became a very good thing because I went back to school at Friends University in Wichita State to finish my music degrees. And that was really the time in our lives where we started questioning everything. And that's where the deconstruction period really started. In fact, Rich Mullins was a classmate of mine at Friends University, and he had a huge influence on my life in rethinking everything. And if you know about Rich's writings, you know that he was that way. So Second has a very, very high degree of emotional health. And it's not by accident. The church has purposely done book studies like Emotional Healthy Spirituality. And Hunter Mobley 2 years ago was in with the Enneagram, 4 with the 5-wing, in case you're wondering. And the health is also modeled by the staff. Just an incredible staff from top down. Love our pastor, Jason. They're the finest people that I've ever served with. A lot of people my age are retiring, and I tell them I found my dream job. And I hope to be there until the personnel committee kicks me out. So I'm just loving what I'm doing, loving where I am. But it wasn't always that way. I could spend hours telling you some of the horror stories that happened. And when I look at it, it's like, why even are you in ministry still with what happened? And I guess the answer to that is because there just wasn't anything else I could do. Even at that 10-year period in Wichita when I was out of ministry for the most part and possibly thinking about going into teaching, getting my music ed degree, there was something in me that just wouldn't let me let it go. And today, standing here, I'm so glad that I didn't. One of my favorite times every week is choir rehearsal. I'm sure that maybe is that the same way for you. We've got just a great choir. We can sing difficult music. We can sing a cappella on pitch. I've never had this choir that, the worst part in the song is where the accompaniment stops and you've got about 12 bars of, will they be on pitch? Yes, they will. We did Red or Glory a couple years ago, and you know what a difficult piece that is, and then there's that a cappella section, and then it's like, will we be on key? And they were just spot on. It's incredible. I am so, so, so blessed. I could have prima donnas in my choir, and I don't have a single one. This church is full of supportive and grace-filled people. Another thing I love is helping the choir overcome vocal issues. Like in Gloria, I've got a lot of chest-dominant sopranos, and getting them to find their head voice was a process because you just have to have it in that piece. So I really love that part of it. And, I love this group. Thank you all so much. And Kyle and people who have been instrumental. I really do need this. Doug asked, what is the thing that would help me flourish? And this is it. I really do believe that. in our rebuilding process, it's going to take some time. We've done without children's choir and student choir now for 2 years. It's going to be difficult to get that going again. We suspended our Christmas concert last year. But going forward, one of the things I want to do is create a community Christmas choir, invite people from the community to join our choir, and then have a Christmas concert. A lot of the things our church did, like Hanging in the Green and things like that, they're for our people. And I got thinking, what are we doing for people out there? To tap into the arts scene in Kansas City that is so vibrant, how can we get people through the arts to come see who we are? And that's one of the things I'm going to do. So thank you, Doug. Appreciate this opportunity to speak. And if you ever want to hear more of the story of some of the bad things we've been through and how God taught us, I'd be glad to talk to you. So thank you.
I'm just loving these stories. Last but certainly not least, Vivian Hamilton from First Baptist Church, Greenville, South Carolina, and Furman University.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Let's go, Vivian.
It's great to be here with you today. I'm from Greenville, South Carolina, where I work at First Baptist Greenville and in the music department at Furman University. For most of my career, I balanced teaching music in school and church jobs, working as a choral musician in churches, and mostly Baptist and Methodist churches. Several years ago, I was in a small church that seemed to have many problems. I'm sure some of you have had this experience, and they were just struggling with a lot of things. And so I decided after some years I should just look for a different situation. And during this time, First Baptist Greenville was looking for a minister of music, and so they invited me to be the interim choir director. So I went there, and I just fell in love with this choir after about 5 minutes. They would just sing anything. They didn't balk at music that took more rehearsal. They would sing jazz. They would sing Latin. They were just fearless. And they just sort of took me in, and I just felt like they sort of saved me. And so I applied for the job. I thought, well, maybe they'll consider me. Probably not, but maybe. And so then I was kind of hoping for that, but I was doing this interim thing. And then one Wednesday night on the way into the rehearsal, I was just walking in, and I had on a skirt, and I sort of felt something sort of falling around my feet, and I looked down, and my slip had just totally fallen down around my shoes, and in the music suite door there were these really tall bushes, and I just thought, well, I'll just step out of this and throw this in the bushes, and maybe nobody will see it. But this older bass member of the choir was holding the door for me, and just said, "Vivian, oh my goodness," and he was just horrified. Anyway, I went in. I tell you this crazy story because I was sort of hysterical going into this rehearsal with this choir that didn't even know me, and after that I thought, well, there's no way they're going to hire me now, so I might as well just enjoy it while it lasts. But I was really thrilled to get invited to stay, and to say this silly story, to also say, don't lose hope. No matter how, no matter how bad you mess up, there is a lot of grace in the world still. But my favorite thing in my work in this wonderful church is, as some of you said, working with the sanctuary choir. I love rehearsing. I love working on sacred choral music, which is some of the most beautiful music we have. And in music ministry, we do encounter crazy people, but we also inevitably cross paths with some of the best people in the world, people whose faith and perseverance inspire me to be a better person. A couple of people that come to mind who meant a great deal to me in my growing as a church musician were in this small Methodist church that had all the struggles, and they introduced me to the Methodist Book of Worship. I had not gone to divinity school or seminary. In graduate school, I sort of took a different path, and I just came to love the liturgical elements of worship also, and found it so valuable in choosing music for worship the rest of my life. I still do. So that meant a lot to me. I don't really have any great wisdom to share or ideas to share as we all struggle to rebuild our choirs and our congregations during these times. But two things that I was reminded of these past 2 years of this pandemic. One is our choir also was not in person, couldn't have a choir in person. And we had a lot of positive response to our services that were online, to the music. And the music was very simple. It was just simple hymns and simple songs sung by one or two people. So I always want to remind myself sometimes that means more to people than the more complex choir anthem or instrumental piece. Our pastor, Jim Dant, told our staff as we reopened this past year, he said, focus on the importance of your work. Just because there are less people coming in person, just still focus on how important your work is, and people will see that. They will see how valuable that is, and they will hopefully want to get involved. I've only been part of this Polyphony group for a couple of years, really. I did attend the conference in Mercer a couple of years ago, and these Zoom meetings these past 2 years have meant so much to me. I found it to be such a nurturing, uplifting group of people, so I'm thrilled to be here, and I look forward to meeting more of you. But thank you.